The Jews in Arabia had considerable influence on Muhammad and the new Arab religion, Islam, which he founded early in the 7th century. But this very fact became a cause of antagonism when the Jews saw the arbitrary way in which the Torah had been plagiarized and mixed with the Prophet's own revelations. Though once established, Islam became belligerent towards Judaism, although the restrictions placed upon the Jews fell far short of the persecutions practiced against them in Catholic countries. Towards Catholicism, however, the Muslim Saracens were a scourge. Revelation chapter 9 symbolizes them as a plague of locusts with the sting of scorpions, tormenting and hurting principally the eastern part of the empire for a total of 5 months, and thus, for a day for a year as explained earlier, a total of 150 years, being from approximately 622 to 772 AD. And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to earth, and he was given the key of the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke, like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened with the smoke from the shaft. Then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power, like the power of scorpions of the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green growth or any tree, but only those of mankind who have not the seal of God upon their foreheads. They were allowed to torture them for 5 months, but not to kill them, and their torture was like the torture of a scorpion when it stings a man. And in those days men will seek death, and will not find it. They will long to die, and death will fly from them. In appearance the locusts were like horses arrayed for battle. On their heads were what looked like crowns of gold. Their faces were like human faces, their hair like women's hair, and their teeth like lions' teeth. They had scales like iron breastplates, and the noise of their wings was like the noise of many chariots with horses rushing into battle. They have tails like scorpions, and stings, and their power of hurting men for 5 months lies in their tails. They have as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he is called Apollyon. In 637 AD, Catholicized Jerusalem surrendered to the Arabs, and it became possible for Jews to at least return to their holy city in small numbers. Though in the shadow of the Dome of the Rock, which was completed in 691 AD, the Jews continued to exist until their community was destroyed by the Catholic Crusaders in 1099 AD. The Islamic hordes pushed back the Romans into Asia Minor, crossed North Africa, and invaded Spain, occupying the lands they conquered. They were turned back by Charles Martel and the Franks at Tours, France, in 732 AD, to the considerable relief of the papacy. Arab caliphs and governors freely enlisted the services of Jews in their administrations, and depended heavily on their expert advice in matters of finance and international diplomacy. Jewish schools served as academies of learning in the Muslim world. The first center of Jewish culture in the Islamic Empire was in Babylonia, but as time went on the leadership passed to Baghdad, Egypt, and, finally, Spain. The suffering Jews in Spain welcomed the Arabs, who released them from their Catholic persecutors. This was the beginning of a period of cooperation between the Jews and Arabs that elevated Spain to distinction and wealth, a period afterwards referred to as the Golden Age, and which lasted approximately 300 years. Cordoba in Spain became independent of Baghdad, being transformed into an academic, scientific, and cultural center for both Jews and Arabs, surpassing the cities of Catholic Europe. When Spain broke up into princedoms, Granada and then Seville inherited Cordoba's brilliance, with the Jews again playing a leading role. After the fall of Toledo to the Catholics in 1085 AD, and the incursion of hostile Muslim tribesmen from Africa, the Jews were suppressed and forced to flee. With the departing Jews went the Golden Age, and its relative enlightenment. Catholic conquests from the north soon tied most of the peninsula to the papacy once again. In spite of the obvious lesson of this history, Arab persecution of Jews has flared up periodically since. For example, in 1066 AD, more than 5,000 Jews were murdered in Granada, and the Arab countries of North Africa have all behaved similarly in turn. Jewish hatred only grew in Europe, in the depths of the Middle Ages, with the newly formed Holy Roman Empire becoming a breeding ground for anti-Semitism. In the church, the hypocritical hatred of heresy fumed against the Jews who, in the main, stubbornly refused to convert to Catholic Christianity. The growing psychological power of the clergy increased the general loathing. The feudal system created a class devoted to warfare, the knight's oath of fealty, requiring his sword to be used in defense of the Trinity and the Mother of God, which implied that Jews should be treated as deadly foes. Various forms of insults and provocations against Jews became traditional in certain towns, especially on church holy days. The trade of money lending magnified the detestation, because the church preached the sinfulness of participation in this badly needed function. The occupation and its stigma went mainly to the Jews. Indeed, in at least one region, they were prohibited from following any other vocation. The aggravations of loan establishment procedures and the difficulties in recovery of debts ensured continuous resentment. Interest rates and the attendant risks to the lender were both very high. Depending on the exigencies of the situation, feudal lords and rulers might, at any time, for themselves or whole communities, demand a huge levy from the usurers, cancel the payment of interest, delay repayments, reduce the indebtedness by an arbitrary but sizable percentage, or just wipe it out altogether, all without fear of recrimination, in a society steeped in a religion that justified such moves. There can be little surprise at reports of harsh bargaining and ruthless treatment by the Jews, arising as these did from a hostile society and from an economic environment that encouraged the lender to make the best of it while the going was good. The only restraint that appears to have operated on the ruling class was the fear that they might kill the goose that laid the golden egg. At times, however, even this ruthless policy was forgotten. Confiscations and mass expulsions from various countries would bring a short-term financial gain to the populace, but would lead to long-term financial problems. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to get notifications of new videos. Like, share and comment below.